Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Guess everybody's partied out, huh? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we will hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 20, and we are going to go through texts 2 through 15. So I will read the verses, the translations, and the purports, such as they are, and then up to through 14, and then we'll chant 15 together. Text 2. Janame jayo hyabhut puro prachinvangs tatsutastata praviro ta manushyorvai tasmacharu pado bhavat. The king Janamejaya was born of this dynasty of Puru. Janamejaya's son was Prachinvan, and his son was Pravira. Thereafter, Pravira's son was Manushu, and from Manushu came the son named Charupada. Text 3. Tasya sudya rabhut putras tasmad bahu gavastata sanyatis tasya hangyati rodrashvas tatsuta smrita. The son of Charupad was Sudyu. The son of Sudyu was Bahugava. Bahugava's son was Sangyati. From Sangyati came a son named Ahangyati, from whom Rudrashva was born. 4 and 5. Oops. Riteus tasya kaksheyu standileyu kriteyukaha jaleyu sannateyuscha dharma satya vrateyava dashaite prashara putra vaneyuscha vamasmrtaha gritacham indriyaniva mukyasya jagaratmana. Rudrashva had 10 sons named Rateyu, Kuksheyu, Standileyu, Kritiyuka, Jaleyu, Sannateyu, Dharmeyu, Satyeyu, Rateyu, and Vaneyu. So if we think Madan Gopal Prabhu has something going on with the Prema Gopal and Navneet Gopal, we got these ayus, kind of a theme in Rudrasva's sons' names. Of these 10 sons, Banayu was the youngest. As the 10 senses, which are products of universal life, act under the control of life, these 10 sons of Rudrasva acted under Rudrasva's full control. All of them were born of the Apsara named Ghutachi. Text 6. Suteyu rantinabo bhut trayas tasyat maja nripa sumatir dhruvo pratirata kanvo pratiratatmaja. Rateyu had a son named Rantinava, who had 3 sons named Sumati, Dhruva, and Apratirata. Apratirata had only 1 son, whose name was Kanva. Text 7. Tasya medha titistasmat praskanadya dvijataya putro bhutsamute rebhir Duṣmantas tatsutomata. The son of Kanva was Medha-titi, whose sons, all Brahmanas, were headed by Praskanna. The son of Rantinava, named Sumati, had a son named Rebhi, and Mahārāja Duṣmanta is well known as the son of Rebhi. 8 and 9. Duṣmanto mrigayam yata kanvashrama padangata tatrasinam swaprabhaya mandayantim ramamiva vilokya sadyo mumuhe devamayam ivasturiyam pabhashe tam vararoham vatai katipayayarvita. When King Duṣmanta went to the forest to hunt and was very much fatigued, he approached the residence of Kanva Muni. There he saw a most beautiful woman who looked exactly like the goddess of fortune and who sat there illuminating the entire ashram by her effulgence. The king was naturally attracted by her beauty, and therefore he approached her, accompanied by some of his soldiers, and spoke to her. Tadarshana pramudita sannivritta parishrama prapachakama santapta prahasan shlakshnaya gira. Seeing the beautiful woman, the king was very much enlivened, and the fatigue of his hunting excursion was relieved. This happens occasionally, right? How many, I mean, last time I was here, we had another instance like this, right? He was, of course, very much attracted because of lusty desires, and thus he inquired from her as follows in a joking mood. Ka tvang kamala patrakshi kasyasi hridayangame king switchi kirshitam tatra bhavatya nirjane bane. Oh, beautiful lotus-eyed woman, who are you? Whose daughter are you? What purpose do you have in this solitary forest? Why are you staying here? Vyaktam rajanyatanayam vedmyaham tvam sumadhyame nahi cheta puravanam adharme ramate kvachit. O most beautiful one, it appears to my mind that you must be the daughter of a kshatriya. Because I belong to the Puru dynasty, my mind never endeavors to enjoy anything irreligiously. Come on. Text 13. Oh, there is a purport, isn't there? Mahārāja Duṣmanta indirectly expressed his desire to marry Śakuntalā, for she appeared to his mind to be the daughter of some Kshatriya king. Shri Śakuntalā uvacha Vishwamitra Majaivaham Chakta Mena Kayavane Vedai Tad Bhagavan Kanvo Viraking Karavamate. Śakuntalā said, I'm the daughter of Vishwamitra. My mother Menaka left me in the forest. O hero, the most powerful Saint Kanva knows all about this. Now let me know, how may I serve you? Srila Prabhupada's purport. Śakuntalā informed Mahārāja Duṣmanta that although she never saw or knew her father or mother, Kanva Muni knew everything about her, and she had heard from him that she was the daughter of Vishwamitra and that her mother was Menaka, who had left her in the forest. 14. Asyatam hyaravindaksha grihyatam arhanang chana bhujyatang santi nivara usyatam yadirochate. O king, with eyes like the petals of a lotus, kindly come sit down and accept whatever reception we can offer. We have a supply of nivara rice that you may kindly take, and if you so desire, stay here without hesitation. And you knew we'd get there eventually, right? Text 15. Shri Duṣmanta uvacha Upapannamidang subhru Jayata kushikanvaye Swayam hi vranute ragnyam Kanyaka sadrashang varam. Shri Duṣmanta uvacha Upapannamidang subhru Jataya kushikanvaye Swayam hi vranute ragyam Kanyaka sadrashang varam. Shri Duṣmanta uvacha Upapannamidang subhru Jayata kushikanvaye Swayam hi vranute ragyam Kanyaka sadrashang varam. Others, please. Shri Duṣmanta uvacha Anyone online? Okay, translation and purport. Oh, I'm sorry, word to word. We'll eventually get to the purport. Shri Duṣmanta Uvacha. King Duṣmanta replied, Upapannam, just befitting your position. Edam, this. Subhru, O Śakuntalā, with beautiful eyebrows. Jataya, because of your birth. Kushika Unvaye, in the family of Vishvamitra. Svayam, personally. He, indeed. Vernute, select. Ragyam, of a royal family. Kanyaka, daughters. Sadrasham, on an equal level. Varam, husbands. Oh, that's an interesting juxtaposition. On an equal level, and then husbands is varam, which means superior. Interesting. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. King Duṣmanta replied, O Śakuntalā, with beautiful eyebrows, you have taken your birth in the family of the great saint Vishvamitra, and your reception is quite worthy of your family. Aside from this, the daughters of a king generally select their own husbands. Responsively, please. King Duṣmanta replied, O Śakuntalā, with beautiful eyebrows. You have taken your birth in the family of the great saint Vishvamitra, and your reception is quite worthy of your family. Aside from this, the daughters of a king generally select their own husbands. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In her reception of Mahārāja Duṣmanta, Śakuntalā clearly said, Your Majesty may stay here and you may accept whatever reception I can offer. Thus, she indicated that she wanted Mahārāja Duṣmanta as her husband. As far as Mahārāja Duṣmanta was concerned, he desired Śakuntalā as his wife from the very beginning, as soon as he saw her. Bing! So the agreement to unite as husband and wife was natural. To induce Śakuntalā to accept the marriage, Mahārāja Duṣmanta reminded her that as the daughter of a king, she could select her husband in an open assembly. In the history of Aryan civilization, there have been many instances in which famous princesses have selected their husbands in open competitions. For example, it was in such a competition that Sītādevī accepted Lord Rāmacandra as her husband, and that Draupadī accepted Arjuna, and there are many other instances. So marriage by agreement or by selecting one's own husband in an open competition is allowed. There are 8 kinds of marriage, of which marriage by agreement is called Gandharva marriage. Generally, the parents select the husband or wife for their daughter or son, but the Gandharva marriage takes place by personal selection. Still, although marriage by personal selection or by agreement took place in the past, we find no such thing as divorce by disagreement. Of course, divorce by disagreement took place among low-class men, but marriage by agreement was found even in the very highest classes, especially in the royal Kshatriya families. Mahārāja Duṣmanta's acceptance of Śakuntalā as his wife was sanctioned by Vedic culture. How the marriage took place is described in the next verse. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukhaṁ karoti vāchalam bhangum langhayate girim Yat kripatamahang bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Duṣmanta Uvacha Upapannamidang Shubrujataya Kushikan Vaye Swayam hi vernute ragyam kanyaka sadashangvaram. King Duṣmanta replied, O Śakuntalā, with beautiful eyebrows, you have taken your birth in the family of the great saint Vishvamitra, and your reception is quite worthy of your family. Aside from this, the daughters of a king generally select their own husbands. So on the surface, there appears to be a little confusion here. You're the daughter of Vishvamitra Muni, and as the daughter of a king, as the daughter of a Kshatriya, you have the option of selecting your own husband. So Vishvamitra was originally a Kshatriya. The story is told in the Ramayana, and he had a fuss with, who was it? Vasishta over a Kamadhenu. We read about that earlier. And it didn't end very pretty. But Vishvamitra became determined that he would advance. Sometimes you think in a society like this, there's not a lot of room for social advancement. But Vishvamitra took advantage of opportunities to boost his social position. So he became he eventually his real goal was to become a what kind of rishi? Rajarshi? Mahārāja, I think. Anyway, he wanted that kind of like the highest rank, so he would engage in austerities and meditation, and he got distracted by Menaka, and so many things. He found himself being distracted by the desire to be with women. And then he eventually did marry Menaka, and Śakuntalā is the result, the issue. And she was staying with this sage Kanva Muni. See if I can remember a Kanva Das story. So that's that as far as that's concerned. If there's any confusion there, so we see here Duṣmanta, as Pururava was a few weeks ago. He saw this extraordinarily beautiful woman, the daughter of a great sage and an apsara. And naturally, he was quite attracted, and seeing this beautiful woman relieved all the fatigue that he had kind of like accrued in the course of hunting in the forest. Very can be very vigorous and very tiring, as we see with King Parikshit earlier in the Bhagavatam. He was a little, not distracted, he was a little, he was distracted from his focus by his fatigue, and therefore he insulted Shamika Rishi, which resulted in his being cursed by Shamika's son Sringi. So he's very fatigued, he's worn out, and then he sees this beautiful woman. And all of a sudden, he feels like $1,000,000. And so he proposes to her, he says, well, you seem to be you're obviously from a really good family, and the way you've received me is worthy of that family. And by the way, as the daughter of a Kshatriya, you can select your own husband. So he suggests, he's apparently, and he said, I would never do anything irreligious. I'm not being inappropriate. I'm just saying, I'm very attracted to you, and you seem attracted to me. And she confirms that when she responds, oh, you great king with eyes like lotus petals. And you can stay as long as you want in whatever service I can render to you. So there's this agreement. So it's not exactly a Swayamvar. The Swayamvar was a kind of Kshatriya marriage where the bride could select her husband either by her own choice or as a result of a competition, as we saw in the Swayamvar ceremonies of Sītādevī and Draupadī. But there didn't have to necessarily be a competition. If she already had someone in mind, she could just pick that person. So this instead, this becomes more like a Gandharva type of marriage, where this is I think it's a Gandharva. It's what we refer to nowadays, people in India refer to nowadays as a love marriage, often disparagingly, although I think you see less of that. My only real contact with that culture is through Bollywood movies, and I don't hear. I haven't seen a lot of Bollywood movies in the last few years, but I don't know if there are as many, from what I've seen of them, I don't know if there's as much concern about love marriages as there might have been a generation or so ago. So you've got arranged marriage, which is this is one of the 8 marriages. This is kind of the highest marriage, the Brahma Vivaha, where the father of you have an arrangement between 2 sets of parents, or the father, finds a suitable son for the daughter and arranges for the marriage. So this is what Indian folks have generally preferred in our experience. And sometimes you'd see in different newspapers or something, you'd see these ads for looking for a partner, and it would be 26-year-old girl from a such and such kind of Brahmana family looking for someone between the ages of 30 and 35 from a Brahmana family of a higher little rung or something like that, and that kind of thing. And then you have these love marriages, but this is also not a completely illegitimate arrangement, marriage by agreement. And we saw that and quite often it's accomplished by arranging a kidnapping. And of course the most famous of those is Krishna's marriage with Rukmini. But that was also kind of a love, because she had chosen Krishna. She had, in her heart, she belonged, she had given herself to Krishna. And as her brother was organizing her marriage to Shishupal. It's supposed to be hissing and booing right now. She made a different arrangement, right? She wrote this letter to Krishna and sent it through the agency of a trusted Brahmana to Krishna. And she told him what the situation was. And I'm going to be here at this particular temple at this time, and you should not let what belongs to a lion end up going to a jackal. And many years ago, one of our community members, Rasapriya, the daughter of Lochan, and his wife, she actually organized several dramatic performances here at the temple. The first one was she presented as a kind of dinner theater thing. It was the story of Lord Jagannath. And she had adapted it. She kind of like served as a dramaturge, figured out what she wanted to use from Tamal Krishna Mahārāja's, the play that Tamal Krishna Mahārāja had written after the famous ancient play about Lord Jagannath. And she just picked members of the community, just grabbed them and said, you're going to play so-and-so, you're going to play so-and-so, and you're going to play this person, and you're going to play that person. And she gave everybody a script. She rehearsed them endlessly for a couple of months. She built the sets. She organized the costumes, borrowed costumes, I think, from L.A., from New Dwarka Temple in Los Angeles, and put on, this was a fundraiser for the temple, a dinner theater thing. And it was quite wonderful. Another play she did was, another play she did was The Birth of Lord Krishna, which we did here at the temple on Janmashtami. And we also performed it for the Indian community at the Poway Center for the Performing Arts. I think Mahavishnu Goswami, the elder, was here for those performances, or at least for the one in Poway. And then she produced on Janmashtami another year, Krishna, the kidnapping of Rukmini. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. And in that play, a lot of the, I guess you'd call them second generation ISKCON devotees were involved. My older daughter Krishnamai played Rukmini. My friend Kusha's son Atmarama played Balaram. Diane's son Noah played Krishna. I played Rukmini's father. Diane played her mother. Anyway, it was quite wonderful. And it was a very, very moving performance, which included Krishnamai reciting that letter to, from Rukmini to Krishna. As she, went through the motions of writing it, she was reciting it out aloud. And the devotees found that quite moving. So this most famous Gandharva marriage. Now, what's going to happen is they marry by agreement. There's no ceremony, big ceremony in a Gandharva marriage. You don't have a big fire sacrifice. Duṣmanta gets her pregnant and then leaves, skedaddles. And so then there's a little contention over who should be responsible for the child. And the child, as it turns out, his name is Bharata. You may have heard of him. The whole subcontinent of India is named after him. The planet is named after him, King Bharat. So it may seem a little irresponsible, a little inauspicious, but ultimately the son was raised well, and became very famous for his generosity, for his performance of sacrifice, and so many things. So as I read this, I also was thinking about how there's a sort of analog in the society of devotees, where you have a relationship that requires very serious, very profound commitment. And that's the relationship between guru and disciple. And so that is also something that we see nowadays, as essentially mostly marriage by agreement. But too often, far too often, at least half of the time nowadays, it seems, at least I think in the US, I think the divorce statistics are something like 50%, north of 50%. So this divorce by disagreement is something that seems to ensue from too many marriages by agreement, because the agreement might be made too hastily. There are certain things that happen when we become attracted to someone romantically or sexually. And there's a production of hormones that makes you feel great when you think of that person, when you're around that person. There's a song from an old musical from the early 50s, South Pacific. Some enchanted evening, you may see a stranger. You may see a stranger across a crowded room. And somehow you'll know even then, that somehow you'll meet her again and again. So you get that chart. This is hormones at work. And you think, bing, this is Cupid's arrow. Now, that excitement that's created by those hormones, that only is going to last you a while. And afterwards, you have to, I think that's like dopamine or something. And then later, the hormones that help us create a long-term relationship, oxytocin and things like that, that's something that happens later. And if that doesn't happen, and somehow or other you can't figure out how to deal with the differences, because there are going to be differences. It's two different people. It's always going to be the case. Then ultimately there's going to be a break in the marriage. And so marriage is really about two things. It's about, on one level, it's about social stability. And beyond that, it's about continuing the family line, continuing the species. But it's something that needs to be done with some care and some intelligence. Otherwise, then we have these very painful situations of divorce, painful for the husband and the wife, painful for the rest of the family, particularly painful for children. And similarly, if we're not careful in creating a relationship between guru and disciple, that if it's, if a disciple decides that, oh, this is my guru because it's someone who is a really great kirtan singer or can really wow people with his recall of Sanskrit verses, or because they have thousands of disciples and therefore they must be a big deal, or some other reason other than this person actually inspires me to become more and more serious about my bhakti practice. That should be the impetus. The other things, they're all just kind of like, they're window dressing. Having a great number of disciples may indicate that this is a very powerful guru. May indicate that. Being able to open all kinds of expensive temples, big fancy temples here and there. That may indicate it, but it may not, it doesn't necessarily indicate that this is the right person to guide me in my spiritual life. So we read in Hari Bhakti Vilas verses from other scriptures requiring a period of examination between husband and wife. Between a guru and prospective guru and prospective disciple, just as there should be a period of between a prospective husband and wife where they actually get to know each other, where they can figure out whether it might be possible for us to deal with these any differences that arise, as the marriage goes on, as things become more complicated, and believe me, they do. The honeymoon lasts a very short time. And after that, you have the business of, really getting to know each other, really trying to create a real relationship and build a family. And there's a lot of moving parts there. And when it comes to guru and disciple, at the end of his purport to verse 45, I think, in the first chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, this verse discusses the Shiksha and Diksha disciples. Shiksha and Diksha gurus. And toward the end of at the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada cites Srila Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, and then he comes back to it again at the end of the purport. And he says that we need to be very careful in selecting a spiritual master who is actually capable of inspiring us. He said, Jiva Goswami warns in his Bhakti Sandarbha to be very wary. Actually, Prabhupada's language is, Jiva says that we should not choose a spiritual master on the basis of social, family, or ecclesiastical conventions. But we should actually choose someone who can really inspire us and guide us on the path of bhakti. Now, if you look in Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, at the section where he mentions that, I don't remember which one it is, which anucheda it is, the language he uses is vyavaharik guru, everyday guru, ordinary guru. So he's essentially talking about what sometimes is known as kula gurus, a village guru or a family guru, these kind of social or family conventions. But Srila Prabhupada adds the word ecclesiastical, which I find very, very interesting. And it seems to me it's not considered carefully enough nowadays in some sections. It should, in other words, it should be a real relationship. The basis of the relationship should be mutual earned trust and affection between teacher and student. A lot of the other considerations may be secondary. Now, again, that period of examination is really, really important. The student needs to spend time with the guru and the guru with the student so that the student can see, is this person actually qualified to be a guru? And is this person actually qualified to be my guru? Is this someone who I can actually connect with? And the prospective guru needs to examine the student to see, is this someone whom I can actually help? And will they actually bring credit, I guess, in a sense, to my lineage, just as Bharat here is bringing credit to this particular lineage. So anyway, when I think about marriage, I think about initiation as well. These two really important, really profound relationships that need to be considered very carefully in order to get the kind of result that we ultimately want. Now, I'll stop here and open things up for any discussion. This is a hard part, a little hard part of the Bhagavatam, because this is one of the conventions of a Purana, to have all these genealogical lists of kings and stuff. So this is, but however, this particular, at the end of the 9th canto, this is leading up to something. The last chapter of the 9th canto is entitled Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there we'll get Krishna's genealogy as well. And that will bring us, that'll serve as the segue or the transition to the 10th canto, to the birth of Lord Krishna and all his other pastimes. Okay, any discussion? Yes?
Thank you for the class, first of all. Maybe just to continue making this analogy that you saw. Hello? Yeah, Hare Krishna. Just to continue this analogy, or just drawing these parallels between marriage and the relationship between guru and disciple. I had also already heard or read before about, I'm not sure if it's some results or statistically or scientific results worldwide, but I think I heard that for India, indeed, that marriages that have better chances of success are the ones that were arranged beforehand, and not the ones that were based on these love-based marriages. And maybe similarly for the guru-disciple relationship, like something similar works, right? That people who know you or know your traits, your characteristics, your needs, where you need to grow more, can recommend also a guru. For me, it was the case. I mean, I'm not at this stage really yet of actively seeking initiation, but anyway, I don't want to enter into those details. But that's something just that I wanted to comment on, that it's also maybe something similar, not so much on sentiment, but of what other people know about you and about these gurus.
That's an interesting way to complicate the question a little bit. Is that we see this. Many members of our community, the older members of our community, their marriages were arranged marriages. And what seems to happen, is that as they get to know each other, based on this very serious commitment, they figure out how to navigate all those things. And the love comes afterwards. But beforehand, there needs to be some understanding. Sometimes we use astrology. You might use different systems to try to figure out compatibility, it does seem to have worked out. In ISKCON, it used to be you took initiation starting in 1978, I guess. Yeah, starting with the GBC meetings in 1978. You took initiation from someone pretty much based on where you lived. That was the official system. If you live in this part of the world, this is the guru who's been chosen for that part of the world. And so that's your guru. Some of those relationships have worked out. Quite a lot of them haven't. And because there have been problems with initiation in ISKCON especially, the leadership of the society has come up with a system to try to regulate that. And there are certainly commendable things about that. But it still doesn't necessarily always, result in a good relationship. Still, we find so many disciples who disappoint their guru, or gurus who disappoint their disciples by their behavior, by having too many disciples and too many projects or something like that, and therefore the disciples don't get the attention they need. Sometimes you're able to compensate for that. Radhanath Swami has his whole system that kind of started with his, what was that film a few years ago? Simple Temple. You know, a system of counselors. So although you may not have direct access to your initiating guru, there's a system of trusted senior disciples who are able to counsel devotees. So that's one way of dealing with that. And we see, although he has a great many disciples, we don't see necessarily the same kind of disappointing results in the disciples who lose interest for one reason or another, either because they see some fault in the guru, whether it's there or not, whether it's real or imagined, or because they become distracted. So what we really need is a real the kind of family atmosphere I think that Radhanath Maharaj seems to have created with that model that he has, this kind of counseling model, which I think he was inspired by something that was going on at New Vrindavan. And he's turned it into something much more beneficial than the way it turned out at New Vrindavan. So yeah, it's not a simple thing. It's not just it's only the guru and the disciples' business, because we're creating a society of Vaishnavas, of Gaudiya Vaishnavas with ISKCON. But at the same time, too heavy-handed too heavy-handed interference by the institution can also, it kind of abrogates the disciple's responsibility, infantilizes the disciple to an extent. It can. That's how it was 45 or so years ago. Oh, you live in Hawaii, you're going to be initiated by so-and-so. That's your guru. And I remember an instance where there was one woman in Honolulu who actually found herself very drawn to someone else who wasn't the zonal guru for Hawaii. She found herself very attracted to another preacher because of his energy, the way he presented Gaura Lila, and she made it clear that I would frankly prefer to be initiated by him rather than by our local guru. And I had to sit in a meeting, maybe 30, 40 minutes or so, where this local zonal guru tried to talk this devotee, an intelligent, educated woman. She graduated from one of those, she's my age about, and she graduated from one of those women's Ivy League colleges. They used to be separate. It used to be men's Ivy League colleges and women's, Harvard and Radcliffe and that kind of thing. But she graduated from one of those. No, actually, I think she graduated from Brown, a co-ed Ivy League university. Very educated, very capable. Her nickname given by our temple president was Bhakta so-and-so rather than Bhaktin so-and-so. Why? Because she was more competent than all the brahmacharis in the temple put together. And she got more stuff done. She eventually took initiation, was able to take initiation from the guru whom she preferred. So it's a complicated thing, and because we are who we are, we will make mistakes, and we can only hope that we learn from those and do better. So the kind of regulation now, often that kind of arranged marriage, there would be maybe space for the partners to get to know each other, although even some of the folks in our community nowadays, well, most of them are kind of passing away. They may not have met their husband or wife before the wedding. And this is often the case in arranged marriages. And generally they do last. And of course that's also partly due because there's support from the extended family, which is a rare thing, especially in the West nowadays. It's just a fact, a fact of life that people get married and they go away. Or, maybe they go to college and then they never come back. They meet somebody at college and they go live in a completely different part of the country or a different part of the world. And they don't have that support of the extended family. And so with that, that's also a factor, I think, in how ill-fated so many marriages seem to be. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad you did. Grateful to you. Anything else? Sankarshan.
Thank you for the class. I was just wondering do we know anything more about Śakuntalā and this situation where her mother and father left her in the forest?
I think that's described. Well, it's brought up also in Mahārāja, and then there's a particular literature about Śakuntalā, and I don't remember the name or the author off the top of my head. That's something I'd have to look up. That would be discussed in more detail, probably in great detail there. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Vanchakalpaturi Vishtakripa Sindhu Evacha. Patitanam Pavanebhi.